History of the Norse world from beginning to destruction. How the world came into being. One of the reasons for the emergence of various myths was the curious nature of man and his attempt to answer fundamental questions. Scandinavian mythology originates from the beliefs of the Vikings, which are collected in 2 books of poetic and prose odes. According to the beliefs of this group, in the beginning there was nothing. This empty space was called Ginnungagap, to the north of which was the realm of ice and fog called Niflheim, and to the south of which was the realm of fire called Muspelheim. After a while, the rivers of Niflheim and the molten materials of Muspelheim joined together, and from their collision, the first living being was born. He was called Ymir, the most gigantic being you can imagine. From Ymir came the first generation of Jotnar, or giants. Ymir, however, was not the only living being created from the collision of ice and fire. Alongside him, a cow named Odumbla was also created. He licked the ice, and the milk he produced was enough to feed the giants. But the role of these ices was more than these words, because after a while, a person named Bori was formed from among them. Bori is the ancestor of the Æsir gods, and his descendants, Odin, Vili, and Vi, played an important role in the formation of the world. In fact, the event that these 3 brothers caused was so key and important that it determined the fate of the world. They plotted to kill Ymir and eventually carried it out. The consequences of this murder were extremely horrific. Ymir's blood was so abundant that all the giants drowned except for 2. The 3 brothers then used Ymir's body to help form the world, with his skull used to form the sky and his flesh used to form the earth. You might be wondering what motivated Odin and his brothers. Why would they slaughter their ancestor? There is disagreement among sources, but the most logical one is that the 3 had no choice but to do so in order to create the world. As Neil Gaiman explains in Norse mythology, Ymir's death brought life into being. This murder was the main reason for the giants' deep hatred of the Æsir gods, and also the first spark for the Norse apocalypse, Ragnarok. Who are Æsir gods? In the Genesis section, you were introduced to the Æsir gods. Most of the famous characters in the Norse world are from this race. So much so that most of the stories and poems revolve around the adventures of the Æsir gods. Now let's become familiar with the Æsir gods. Odin. One of Odin's most famous titles is All-Father. His thirst for infinite knowledge and foresight made him the wisest of the gods. To understand how thirsty Odin is, you need to know that he not only lost one of his eyes to drink from the well of knowledge, but also hung himself from the tree of life for 9 days. Therefore, he is aware of everything that happens in the 9 realms of the Norse world. Thor, the god of lightning and son of Odin, whose power is widely known. He is powerful alone, and carrying the hammer Mjolnir, the most powerful weapon in the world, has made his power reach an infinite limit. So much so that in numerous stories he has killed a large number of strong and gigantic giants. Balder. Balder is another of Odin's children and the god of light, and is very popular among all races. His body was resistant to all harm until Loki found a way to kill him, and he was killed one day to everyone's disbelief. Magni and Modi, the sons of Thor, who are survivors of the apocalypse and inherit their father's hammer. In one story, when the body of one of the giants was lying on Thor and none of the gods could do anything, Magni, who was only 3 years old at the time, saved his father. Heimdall. Heimdall is the guardian of Asgard, the land of the Æsir gods. His eyes and ears are so powerful that it is said that he can hear the sound of grass growing from miles away. He will sound his trumpet at the end of time, alerting the gods to the attack of their enemies. Dies. Mimir is one of the wisest gods. He was born after the Vanir gods. His head was cut off and sent to Odin, who brought him back to life with magic. Tyr, the Norse god of war, who is known for his justice and pacifism despite his position. He is also known as the one-armed god. But how did Thor lose his arm? This story goes back to a giant wolf named Fenrir, which is discussed in the giants section. Now who are Vanir gods? The Vanir, another race of gods known for their wisdom and magic. The Vanir and the Æsir were at war with each other for a long time, but eventually found a way to make peace. Njord, leader of the Vanir gods who joined forces with the Æsir gods after making peace, with his 2 children Frey and Freyja to the realm of the Æsir they moved. Frey. Frey is known for his justice. He is one of the first gods to be killed during Ragnarok. Freya or Frigg. There is disagreement among various sources about Freya's true identity. Some consider her to be one of the Vanir gods who reside in Asgard, while others believe she is Frigg, the wife of Odin. She is also the queen of the Valkyries. Now let's see the giants. Ymir. Ymir was the source of life in the Norse world, who was killed by Odin and his brothers. Loki. Loki is undoubtedly one of the most important characters in the Norse world. The importance of this character is so great that it can be said that Ragnarok would not have happened without him and his children. Loki lived among the gods of Asgard, but he was punished many times for the tricks and harm he caused them. Finally, after the gods realized that he was the cause of Baldur's death, they considered the worst possible punishment for him. After that, Loki was imprisoned until the apocalypse. Luffy is referred to as Loki's mother. Although this character is not mentioned much in mythology, we witness her strong and influential presence in the game God of War. Angrboda is one of the giants and the mother of Loki's children. Fenrir. Loki's first child is a giant wolf named Fenrir. When the gods, according to a prophecy, learn that Loki's children will play a role in Ragnarok, they send each of them to a place where they will be less in danger. In the meantime, they keep Fenrir between them to keep a close eye on him. Days passed, and the wolf grew bigger and bigger until the gods felt a great danger. Their last attempt to chain Fenrir, which was successful, resulted in the severing of the arrow's hand. Because Fenrir had asked for one of them to put his hand in his mouth to show their trust in them, and if he could not kill Ranger, then he would cut off his hand. Jörmungandr, the second child of Loki and Angrboda. He is a giant serpent that encircles the Midgard Ocean. His and Thor's not-so-pleasant encounters have turned them into blood enemies, leading them to fight each other in Ragnarok. Cardamom, the daughter of Loki and Angrboda, who is the ruler of Helheim, or the world of the dead. Surit, the fire giant of Muspelheim, one of the first living beings in the Norse world to move north. Some believe he was created after Ymir, while others believe he has been in Muspelheim since long before. He prepares for Ragnarok to set the world on fire and seal the end of the reign of the Æsir gods. Humans. After killing Ymir, Odin and his brothers created the human ancestors named Esk and Embla and then placed them in Midgard. Elves. Elves are undoubtedly one of the most famous races in the Norse world. They are divided into two groups, light and dark elves. Now let's get familiar with dwarfs. Brock and Sindri. Dwarves are known for their skill in tool-making. Brock and Sindri are among the most famous of this race, most notably for the creation of the hammer Mjolnir. Trolls. In Norse mythology, trolls are described in different ways. Some consider them to be evil creatures who are extremely hostile to humans and turn to stone when exposed to sunlight. In another definition, trolls have a human-like appearance, but live in isolation and far from them. Valkyries. The Valkyries are servants of Odin. Their most important duty is to guide the souls of warriors who have died bravely on the battlefield. These souls are guided to Valhalla to fight as part of Odin's army in Ragnarok. Norns. The Norns play an important role in the Norse world. Most sources believe that there are a total of 3 Norns, who control the past, present, and future. Since the Norns control the fate of all beings in the Norse world, they are extremely powerful. Draugrs. Zombies are the modern-day equivalent of the Norse Draugr. Of course, this doesn't mean that a virus or parasite or any kind of microscopic creature turns humans into Draugr. In fact, Draugr are intense human emotions, such as anger or grief, that take over a person's body after they die. These walking dead have more powers than a normal human. One thing to know about the Norse world is that there are certain creatures that do not fit into any of these races. The most important of these are the Radasak, Nidhogg, and Sleipnir. Sleipnir is another of Loki's children. Odin's famous 8-legged horse, renowned for its unparalleled speed and strength across the 9 realms. Nidhogg, next to one of the roots of the Tree of Life, which is located in the realm of Niflheim, lies a giant dragon named Nidhogg. However, some sources believe that Nidhogg is actually a snake and chews the roots of the Tree of Life. Note that the entire Norse world is based on this tree, so we can conclude that this dragon, or snake, is not very pro-life. Introduction to the Tree of Life and the Realms. The Norse world is made up of 9 realms, each located on a part of Yggdrasil, the Tree of Life. This tree has three main roots, each located in one of the realms of Niflheim, Jotunheim, and Asgard. Now let's have a glance at realms. Asgard, the realm of the Æsir gods. Vanaheim, realm of the Vanir gods. Jotunheim, realm of the frost giants. Midgard, human habitation. Muspelheim, realm of the fire giants. Niflheim, the realm of ice and fog. Elfheim, realm of the light elves. Svartalheim, realm of the dwarves. Helheim, the realm of the dead. Now it's time to see the terrible wars of the Norse world. Early war. The original war between two races of Æsir gods. And the Vanir happened. It was sparked by the torture of one of the Vanir gods by the Æsir. The war began in what is considered the most terrible war in the Norse world after Ragnarok. This war lasted a long time, and despite the great efforts of both sides, neither side managed to defeat the other, because their powers, although different, were ultimately equal. Following these unsuccessful attempts, the two groups began to think about peace. Their first attempt at peace was to exchange a number of gods, Njord, Freyr, and Freya in exchange for Mimir and Hjörmungandr. But this peace did not last long, for the Vanir realized that only Mimir was of value to them, and Hjörmungandr was a trickster who could only advise them in Mimir's presence. The Vanir then, in a shocking move, cut off Mimir's head and sent it to Odin. Odin was fascinated by science and knowledge, so in order not to waste Mimir's infinite knowledge, he used his magic to bring his head back to life. After this, the gods found other ways to make peace, which eventually led to the creation of poetry. Ragnarok is coming. Ragnarok was inevitable from the day Odin and his brothers killed Ymir, and even with his knowledge of the future and his many efforts to avert the danger, Odin could not prevent it from happening. The first sign of Ragnarok is a long, harsh winter called the Fimbul Winter. This winter is so harsh that by the end of it only a few humans have survived, while others have died from cold, hunger, or war. Then the skull and Hathi achieve their long-held goal. The sun and the fish no longer illuminate the world with their light, and everything is plunged into darkness. As this series of events unfolds, every race that has ever held a grudge against the gods of Asgard will go to war. These races are frost giants. Loki's children are included in this category. Fiery giants led by Surt. The army of the dead led by Loki. Seeing this situation, Heimdall fulfills his main duty and blows the trumpet. Following that, the gods of Asgard, along with the warriors of Valhalla, prepare for the final battle. The end of the Norse world is coming in the most terrible way possible, and everything that Odin thought he would prevent from happening has only further fueled it. The first god to be killed in the battle with Surt is Frey, followed by his sister Freya. Thor faces his old enemy, Jörmungandr, and a great battle ensues between them. In Norse mythology, Thor had a deep hatred for Jörmungandr, and this was due to the not-so-pleasant encounters between the two. In one story, when Thor had gone to the land of the giants, the king of the giants challenged him. In one of the challenges, he asked Thor to lift the giant's cat, but Thor, despite his best efforts, only managed to lift the cat slightly off the ground. It was later revealed that the cat was actually Jörmungandr, and that Thor had been hallucinating that he saw a cat. This was a spark of great resentment. Although this war ends with the death of Jörmungandr, the fangs of this huge snake have done their job, and Thor falls to his feet after taking a few steps. It is Fenrir's turn to do the only thing he has thought about during his years of captivity: kill Odin. The giant wolf devours Odin before he can react, killing the leader of the gods. Odin's son, Vidar, is so enraged by this scene that he attacks the wolf and tears its jaw apart. In fact, it can be said that the anger he felt at seeing his father die had given him such power. The fight continues with Loki and Heimdall facing off, but it ends in the death of both of them. It can be said that most of the gods and giants we are most familiar with have been killed in one way or another. Nothing remains of the world but ashes, and the apocalypse that everyone feared has finally come to an end. But even in the midst of the darkness, there is a glimmer of hope. For before Ragnarok, two humans took refuge in the Tree of Life and were able to survive this catastrophe. A few of the gods also managed to survive: Nrd, Vidar, Balder returned from the dead, Magni, and Moody. You might ask yourself why the giants, even though they knew their end was near, didn't they avoid it? The Aesir gods, they had taken much from them from the beginning and still slaughtered some of them at every opportunity. Others, like Surt, though with the Aesir gods they had no personal problems, but they were content with their fate in order to make the world a better place. However, all that death and destruction was for nothing, and the survivors of Ragnarok learned from their past mistakes and tried to create a better world. Of course, another creature has apparently survived Ragnarok. Nidhogg now lives in the underworld, feeding on corpses, awaiting another Ragnarok. But will that happen? And if so, how?